The Nameless are a group of people that travel the universe retracing the steps of the eon of trailblazing. While we have spent some time with them adventuring and even saving planets, there's still much we don't know about its members. What exactly was March 7th's past? Why did Welt come to this universe? And most interestingly, what is Dan Heng running from? The 1.1 patch wasn't really filled to the brim with a lot of lore. We had a couple of great events and a companion quest or two, but nothing really moved the main story along. In one of those companion quests, however, we got a clue that relates to one of the Nameless. Based on the events of Yan Qing's companion quest and with the drip marketing of the new characters coming in 1.3, I might have an idea of what Dan Heng did and perhaps a glimpse into his shady past. Before we explore Dan Heng further, if you want to see more Honkai style content, do consider subscribing to the channel. Now, there's two disclaimers I have to mention here. The first is that if you are for whatever reason avoiding spoilers like which character will come out in 1.3 despite all the marketing by Hoyoverse, then be forewarned that I will talk a bit about that. Secondly, this is just an assumption based on what we know now. When the story content gets released, some of this may turn out to be true or completely wrong, so just keep that in mind, and this video is just a theory video and mostly just for fun. If you're watching this at a later date and things have changed, then this is the reason why. With those disclaimers out of the way, let's talk about Dan Heng. From the moment we reached the Xianzhou Luofu, Dan Heng has been rather cagey. While most voted to assist the Xianzhou Luofu, Dan Heng was the sole outlier. Unless you were like me and got tricked by March. He refrains from voting due to some past he claims he has with the Xianzhou Alliance and that he is functionally a wanted person about their ships. He doesn't go into further detail and most of the Nameless leave it at that. Halfway through the story though, he is made aware that Blade is aboard the Xianzhou Luofu and immediately heads out to help the Nameless. Now this isn't the first time we've heard of Blade either, as in another cutscene prior to the voting one, Dan Heng has a dream, kinda like a premonition of Blade. In Yan Qing's companion quest, there is a moment when we speak to Jing Liu about the title of Sword Champion. Yan Qing's own goals aside, there is an interesting piece of lore revealed here. Firstly, the Sword Champion is a title awarded only to those who have achieved the highest level of swordsmanship among the Cloud Knights. According to Yan Qing, the title has been unclaimed ever since the sedition of Imbibitor Lunae. At the time, this was just an unknown person, yet to be introduced, but with the drip marketing, we now know that Dan Heng also goes by the same title of Imbibitor Lunae. Now, if I'm saying that wrong, I'm just mostly following how Yan Qing says it, so yeah, give me a pass for that. Anyways, this basically makes Dan Heng the past sword champion of the Xianzhou Luofu, or rather implies he is, but more importantly was his act of sedition. Sedition is basically the act or speech that may cause people to rebel against an authority, which may imply that Dan Heng was involved in some form of rebellion. On top of this, with the announcement of Imbibitor Lunae, it was also revealed that he was originally entrusted with the duty of guarding the Ambrosial Arbor. Both these lore tidbits seem to imply that at some point in the past, Dan Heng abandoned his duties to push against the leadership of the Xianzhou. Now, why he chose to do this is the mystery here, and we'll get back to that in a bit. The other thing that is interesting is the fact that Dan Heng's Imbibitor appearance is that of the Vidyadara, the dragon immortal species living on the Xianzhou Luofu. This makes it likely that he is from the same clan and species as Bailu. During the main story, he was also seen to be quite knowledgeable regarding the Eon of Permanence, Long, who the Vidyadara are said to be descended from. The Vidyadara, or Long's scions, are also said to have the ability to transform into dragons, but this is mentioned to be a rare ability, and only those who have passed certain trials and rites are afforded such capabilities. Given that Dan Heng appears nothing like Bailu so far in the story, and in the 1.3 reveal shows that he has these traits, likely means that he is able to transform at will. This makes Dan Heng likely a prominent member of the Vidyadara clan before the incitement of this rebellion. Now, back to the rebellion. Is there anything that may indicate why he did it? Truth be told, there isn't. But I'll share with you some ideas that I have. So, we know that the role of the Imbibitor Lunae is to guard the Ambrosial Arbor, an artifact gifted to the people of the Xianzhou Luofu by the Eon Yaoshi. It's that giant tree that recently sprouted. Given this task, the first thing that comes to mind is that perhaps he no longer believed in his role. Perhaps after guarding this tree for many centuries, he learned of the truth behind it and no longer wished to continue guarding something that brought so much suffering to the people of the Xianzhou. It's also possible that this rebellion is related to the Eon of Permanence long. As I've mentioned, the Vidyadara recall their ancestry from this Aeon directly, and perhaps its death was brought on by Yaoshi or even Lan, and after learning of this, Dan Heng started to go against the Alliance or even the Aeons themselves. Now the last possibility is that perhaps this rebellion or activities that incited it aren't even connected to his role at all. We know that Dan Heng has some sort of history with Blade, who even Jing Liu knows, so perhaps something happened and Dan Heng was just pulled into it. Blade could even have been the one to act in a seditious way instead of Dan Heng. Although I am more inclined to believe that Dan Heng himself did something, as in his character story, a person implied to be Blade is hunting Dan Heng down and has destroyed every ship he has been on. In that same character story, Dan Heng also mentions that most in his homeworld harbor hatred towards him, whereas this person hunting him just has killing intent and is likely looking for vengeance. Regardless of these possibilities, it does seem that Dan Heng was incarcerated, exiled, and then excommunicated due to some event that happened in the past. I'm sure we'll learn more about this in 1.2 given characters tend to appear a patch before their release, as well as the trailer that just released, so I'm genuinely excited to learn what really happened. Again, I'll remind you that these are mostly just theories and speculations and may end up being entirely wrong, so don't take them too seriously. Let me know in the comments what you think Dan Heng did to be labeled an exile, and I'll end the video here. If you found the video entertaining, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching, and as usual, have a nice day.